have time for questions after the speaker is finished. Please help me by welcoming Sergeant Albert Willie of the United States Marine Corps up to the podium.
So let this last class get in here. I say thank you for having me. I've enjoyed coming over here and talking to you all. Basically, what got me in the Marine Corps was growing up. I was didn't have any direction, didn't know what I was going to do. College was probably not going to happen for me, so I started looking at going into the Air Force actually. Anyway, so. I was just, like I said, one of the kids just sort of hang out at school. Didn't excel at anything, just sort of, went with the flow of things. But anyway, when I went to the ASVAB, the Armed Services actually came into our school and did the ASVAB test. And I was, like I said, went up to talk to the Air Force recruiters, and they sort of just blew me off. Didn't really want to talk to me. So what I did then was I seen something needed in a magazine or something. It's for the Marine Corps, so I sent them my name, and they mailed it back to me. To show you how old again it was, you actually mailed a letter to them, and they mailed something back to you. But anyway, so the Marine Corps sort of got their teeth into me a little bit early. They started calling me, and we started doing stuff. They have like they call pulley meetings, people who are potentially going to go into the Marine Corps. And they go canoeing or they'll go hiking and camping and that kind of stuff. So they sort of get you into the Marine Corps a little bit there. Well, my ASVAB test scores come in and I did very well. Everybody wanted me to join their branch. Well, like I said, I talked to the Air Force, so I made an appointment with the Air Force, and something happened. I couldn't make it to the first appointment, so I went ahead and made a second appointment. Something happened, I wasn't going to make it. Well, he was going to make a third appointment. I said, I think you're just wasting your time and my time. I'm going to go ahead and go in the Marine Corps. So enlisted in the Marine Corps. So first airplane trip I ever got to take. They flew me from Philadelphia down to Parris Island, South Carolina. Actually, it was somewhere close there. We bussed into the base. But anyway, so I get down there, and the guy comes in, well, welcome to Marine Corps Recruit Training Depot, Parris Island. You'll be here for 12 weeks, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, as soon as he was done that, he started yelling, now get off my bus, get out there and stand on them footprints. And he just starts yelling and yelling and yelling, like, what did I do? So got off the bus, stood on footprints, and they have what they call receiving or processing, where they get you into the service there. So first of all, I had a mustache when I went to boot camp. Big mistake, because I had a razor there, and I think about 100 people shaved before I did, because it didn't cut no hair. It plucked the hair out of my mustache. And then they gave you their haircut, and you stay in your civvies for a couple days, and when your civilian attire. So when you actually take that off and get a shower and then put a uniform on, you feel good, just because you're clean. So what boot camp does, it totally breaks you down and rebuilds you. They give you the characteristics of what Marines want. They want you to be, integrity, courage, just everything it takes to be a good human being. Anyway, so when you finally got these civvies off, you didn't want them anymore. They put them in a bag and they stored them until you graduated. So then you went through boot camp. I graduated. At the end of boot camp was one of the proudest days of my life, because they gave about the history of the Marine Corps, and they looked at everybody and said, I charge you with the title Marine. So that made you have to stand up to the reputation of Marine, and you have to stand up to the reputation of every Marine before you. So it was just an extremely proud moment. I got goosebumps just thinking about it. And this is the third time I said it today, I think. So I was very proud to be a Marine. From there, you went to like a joint training force. Each branch has some specialties. So I went up to Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. We called it Fort Lawson Woods in the state of Missouri. I was up there from like January to April, rain, cold. It was just miserable. But anyway, up there to learn how to become a heavy equipment operator. And after that, I was sent out to the Fleet Marine Force. Of course, back in them days, as soon as I get there, the newbies, they ship you right off to the chow hall. I had to go there and do mess duty for 30 days. Got done that, and then you start learning, how to be a Marine. Luckily, I had like a 9-to-5 job. We had to be there at 7:30 in the morning. You worked on your heavy equipment like bulldozers, forklifts, cranes, excavators, whatever. You worked on them, and then you about 11:30 you went to lunch, and then you came back, and 1300 you had to be there, and you worked the rest of the day. So it was, like I said, basically a 9-to-5 job. Most of the time in that hour and a half, I went out and PT'd. I got with a bunch of people. We ran like 3 miles every day, 5 miles. Oh yeah, one day we did 11 miles. So, and there's probably people who ran more than 11 miles in one day. But that's one thing in the military, you had to stay in shape. So there's a lot of PT. Our normal week was, like on Monday, we had platoon PT. So platoon PT was usually fun. We went down to the gym, we played basketball or just did something like that just to get your blood flowing a little bit. And then Wednesday was company PT. We usually ran for 3 miles. Every run you did was at least 3 miles, maybe 5. And you could do it. You were in shape and you could do it. And then Friday PT was sometimes we had a battalion march where you put all your gear on and you march like hump. We call it humps. And you usually do about 5-mile hump. Or we did battalion PT where you all run. But we always did something like that, so you're always in shape. So anyway, like I said, a 9-to-5 job. And then we had deployments. So they come down and say, okay, we need somebody to go down to Honduras. And I'll tell you I used to volunteer for everything. You always want to be on an advanced party because you get to the advanced party, you're setting up the camp. So when you're setting up the camp, you get to talk to other people. And if you need something, once everybody gets there, you know where to go. Where if you get there late, then you're just sort of wandering around trying to figure out where to go. You have to ask a bunch of people, and eventually you'll find your way to get to where you want to be. Where if you get there advanced party, you're setting the tent up or setting everything up, and so you know where to go. You know who to talk to. So I always liked advanced party. So they asked somebody, they needed people to go down to Honduras. And they said, I want to say they had a month to get ready to go down to Honduras. What they're going to do is take a merchant marine ship and, park it off the coast of Honduras and then ship supplies in. And it's a practice because if you're at war, you only carry so much to go. You might have a couple days with you when you actually hit the beach or wherever you're doing. So you're going to need that supply chain behind you to get there. So we're actually training while we're emptying this merchant marine ship. We're taking all the equipment, make sure it works, lube, oils, whatever. Anything that was expired, we got rid of and replaced. So, that merchant marine ship is a necessary evil there. But anyway, so my buddy volunteered to go down there. So he had like a month to go. Well, this is like on Wednesday. They told me on Wednesday to be in Norfolk, Virginia on Saturday to get on a ship to go down to Honduras. So he volunteered to go. And he had a month to train or get ready for it. Me, I didn't volunteer, and they shipped me right down there. So sometimes it's good to volunteer. But anyway, so I get down there, and the military usually tries like new things, how to make things better, which is neat. But anyway, we had to put a road through a swamp. So we had to put like a base down. I'm down there working with CBs and like dozers, and we had motor T and dump trucks and all that good stuff. So we built a road through the swamp so they could empty that ship. And then while they're doing all that, we had to maintain it. So I was more of like a support person down there, whereas everybody else was working to get the ship emptied. So, I mean, you never know what you're going to do in the military, which is neat because sometimes you get into stuff you like and I can talk about, and sometimes you get into stuff that look like, wow, I hope that never happens again. So, anyway, there's some fun aspects of the military. We were talking earlier, if you're good at sports, usually there's a sports team on the base. And I was actually on the 2nd Marine Division bowling team. So what they did was the rest of my units out in the field, they needed me to come in and bowl. So I actually come in for a day. I got my shower, clean clothes and everything, went to the bowling alley, bowled 3 games. Well, then they shipped me back out to the field. Now, the only bad thing about that was I was the only one that had a shower. Everybody else had been out there for like half a week already, and everybody else smelled. Oh, my God, the body odor was bad. But, I mean, I can live with that, I guess, for a couple days. I got all over the world, been to Honduras twice, been to Puerto Rico, Cuba. I got to see Egypt, Israel, Turkey, Spain, France. So, I mean, there's some advantages. I was on what they call a MU. What they do is they send a MU over to Europe. I don't know if you know this, but the United States military is over the entire world. We're like the police force of the world. If it's like Somalia, if they're trying to get ships through there, but pirates are attacking the ships, well, our Navy will actually go over there and help, calm that down so the ships can get, free trade can happen. So, but anyway, that MU is sitting in Europe, Mediterranean rather. If anything happens, we can respond to it. So anyway, when I went into Rota, Spain, the MU that was coming home, we got to say, okay, tag, you're it. And I went into the med and they came home. So it's always rotating. So anyway, do I have any questions about my service or the military in general? Go ahead.
I was wondering, when you do the PT and you do the miles,
Yeah.
are you in boots or are you in tennis shoes?
It depends. When you're in boots and utes, you're in your boots and utilities and you run. Yep.
When you do the 11 miler,
I was in regular PT year. What we did was we had a course that was 5 miles, and then we come back and work out in the gym, and then jog, run back. So that was a 5-mile loop. Well, we had other people want to do it. We had platoon PT or company PT in the morning, and we ran 3 miles already. So we got some other people from a shop next to us. They wanted to go run, so we actually did 8 miles on that lunchtime run. But we didn't stop at the gym that day. So, but you do it all the time, so you're in shape. Like push-ups, we did push-ups all the time, and we always train for your PFT. We had a PFT, I think, twice a year. But you had to do good on that PFT because you got points for promotion. So you always wanted to make sure you're in shape. And then just before the PFT, the battalion looks good if everybody passes the PFT. It's like everybody's graded. So we actually focused on the PFT like a month before it. So any more questions? Go ahead.
what was your favorite part of doing all of it? Like carrying your service, what was your favorite part?
I mean, you got to look at different parts of it because I had some really good times. I hated going down to Honduras, but you got to have a positive attitude. As long as you have a positive attitude, it'll come out okay. So I actually had a good time down there. Favorite was, like I said, my proudest moment was when they charged me with the title Marine. So that was very uplifting. I loved Israel. Those people over there, they treat you well. They would take like 5 people off the ship and take them to their family. Now I say 5 people. There might be 10 people taking 5 people. So there's 50 of us going out to their house and actually having dinner with them. And what a taxi cab driver in Israel told me, he goes, people really nice to you here? And I go, yeah, they're great. Well, we're the only true ally Israel has. So they, of course, are going to treat us great. So, like I said, it's your attitude. You can make the worst situation. I was in Italy. I forgot to mention Italy, but I was in Italy and with the British Royal Marines, and they needed a latrine dug. So I was a heavy equipment operator. I had a backhoe, so I actually dug their latrine for them. and they invited me back for dinner one night. So I'm over there eating and drinking beer with the British Royal Marines. That was pretty cool. So, any more? Go ahead.
How long did you serve for?
6 years. Of course.
What are some skills, life skills, or specific military skills that you feel have transferred into your current career or could transfer into any career following military?
Well, I mean, the military was structured, so I got out of the Marine Corps and went into the fire department. And the Marine Corps is structured basically the same way. You have your chain of command. So I fit very well in there. I was in shape, so I didn't have to worry about, some people have, like when we go through the fire academy, there's like a little boot camp in there. So I didn't have any trouble with that physical, so I did good there. And it's, another thing too is when you're in the military, you get a bond with people, like the brotherhood next to you, and you don't realize that until you're actually there and do it. Well, the fire department's sort of the same way, because every third day I was with the same people, and we had each other's back. So I mean, it was perfect. The transition from the military to the fire department was perfect for me. So, any more questions? Okay, I think I'll get out of the way, and thank you.
Now, if you would please help me welcome Mike Fotenopulos with the Air Force.
Hello, I'm Mike Fotenopulos, and I'm actually your academic coach. But show of hands, who here has been to one of my ACT boot camps before? There's a few of us here. Awesome. Love y'all. Cool. So I taught here at Har-Ber for about a decade with Mr. Stewart over there, and he's better for that. It's made him better. See, that's good. No one cares. Anyway, so I was in the United States Air Force from 1987 to 1990. It was what we would call the Cold War. And I'll start with maybe why I joined the Air Force. So when I was a kid your age, I was sitting there at Southside High School in Fort Smith, Arkansas. My mom had remarried when she was five. When I was five, because my dad had met his death due to a terrible electrical accident. And so she remarried. And she remarried a good guy there for a while, and then he just became a dumpster fire as time went on. And so me and my brother, we became just kind of like survive this day kind of mentality around him to the point where by the time we were in that age of reckoning, if you will, it's like, how are we going to get out of this mess? Very abusive, very physically abusive, financially abusive, just a weird way to raise kids. But as my senior year rolled in, I was playing football like I always did, and I had a couple of college scholarship offers and things of this nature, but they weren't awesome. My senior year was spent with a good friend of mine and his family, and his dad kind of stopped what he was doing long enough to kind of get in front of me. It was Dr. Tate from Fort Smith. He was OBGYN down there, and he stood in front of me. He said, "Mike, I think you need to join the military." I said, "You do?" And he said, "I do." He said, you're going to go to college, and you don't have a lot of good skills, and you're going to have to pay for a good portion of it yourself. They'll pay for some, it looks like here, but he goes, you're going to have to pay for and you're going to be in debt. And do you want to be in debt? And I was like, no, I don't want to be in debt. And so there were some moments there where I was doing some thinking, and what I thought I was going to do at the beginning of that senior year, by the end of that year, I'm joining the Air Force. And that's kind of a proud moment for me as I look back at it now as a grown man, because what I did is I had the luxury of having somebody who gave two rips about me. They got in front of me. They gave me some great advice. And then here's the next part. I listened to it. And then here's the next part. I applied it. I listened to his advice and I applied it, and I joined the Air Force. And I'm telling you right now, somebody, and I just mean this is a little life lesson moment here, somebody is going to get in front of you the same way, I promise you. Somebody you care about, somebody you love, somebody you know, somebody you trust, and they're going to give you some advice. I promise you, at some point. And like many of us, you're going to say, well, whatever, and off you go. But from time to time, you might want to stop and go, should I apply that? I heard it, but was I listening, and do I need to apply that? I'm telling you, it could be life-changing for you. It was for me. So I joined the Air Force, and I had no idea what the Air Force meant other than the name itself, Air Force. So I bet this deals with things in the air. And I'd watched Top Gun, which is Navy, by the way. So I was qualified. I was ready, right? So I go into the Air Force, June 22nd, 1987, and I didn't know a captain from a colonel. I didn't know a sergeant from an airman, from a master sergeant to, I don't know what they were going to do. And here we go into boot camp, as you mentioned, and boot camp to me was quite nice. It was because compared to the way I was raised, this was easy. Quite frankly, they shaved your head and made you wear green, but other than that, I think I can hang. 3 meals and some running. I got this. And it really was not that bad. So I became a cop. I became an MP, or what they call an SP, 81152. And I didn't know what that really meant. There's 2 different kinds of policemen in the Air Force. There's the security policemen that run around and making sure you're not running off with one of their airplanes. And then there's the law enforcement specialist, which is what I was, and that's the guy that goes and busts up, the NCO club fights, or, a husband and a wife not getting along and billeting, or maybe someone stole something at the base commissary. That's what I got involved in, that kind of stuff. Maybe someone killed themselves, sadly. There was some of that I got involved in. So again, stuff I didn't know anything about, I'm starting to immerse myself into. I get into the law enforcement academy right there in San Antonio, Texas, and next thing I know, I'm running every day with Marines, because you may not know this, but United States Marines do not have their own training facility to become a policeman. So they use the one at the United States Air Force in Lackland Air Force Base. So now you're running with Marines on a daily, like you were talking about, every day, Monday through Friday, waking up and doing 5 miles. 6 miles, 7 miles, and sometimes in tennis shoes, and sometimes in boots, and sometimes you're hating life, and sometimes it was, anyway. That's something that was really kind of, is a repetitive theme throughout this moment that I'm talking about for the next 3 years. It's just change. It's just constant learning something new and change that came with it. Like you guys today, some of y'all, and you know who you are, some of y'all can opt out. When in doubt, check out. You can get your phone and you can kind of say this to the world, right? Just, I'm not, We had those people too in the 1980s, They wouldn't get involved. They didn't they didn't participate. But I just didn't get that opportunity, I didn't think, because I didn't get that opportunity. I didn't take advantage of that. I wanted to see what else we could do. The next thing I know, I'm getting stationed in England. I'm getting stationed about 50 miles west of London. We're going to London every other weekend, which was fun. I'm driving posting vehicles, which is to say a big, if you will, a big yellow school bus, but it's green. It's got a steering wheel on the wrong side of the bus, and you drive the bus on the wrong side of the road with a bunch of people because you're going to another military base that we served, which was RAF Welford, big bomb dump. And so you're taking guys out there and gals, and you're bringing guys and gals back, and you're taking roads that were once, goat trails, sheep trails that the British people put tar on and called it a road now. And you're driving this thing. It was crazy, nuts. And then I became an armorer on top of that. Not only am I a policeman, not only am I driving these posting vehicles whenever I can, I become an armorer. That is to say, I issued weapons at the beginning of every shift, and I took weapons up at the end of every shift. And so now I'm touching everything gun-oriented that the Air Force has to offer in small arms, from a 50 cal all the way to a 38 special. Sawed-off shotguns to an M16 that you can fold up and basically put inside a coat. And it was awesome. Never had kind of done that stuff before. Got to where I could shoot expert on several of those weapons. How about that? While you're there in England, you're playing football. Who'd have thunk of that? They had football teams. Each Air Force base had its own football team. So I got to play football there. And then, if you can imagine, like say Buffalo Wild Wings over here would be our neighborhood pub. Each pub had its own football team, American football team. And each pub would allow 5 Americans on that team. And so now you're playing British American football with British men trying to learn the game of football. And there you are knowing the game of football, and you can just rack some folks. I mean, you can really take some heads off. It was fun. The base football was totally different. That was tough football because you're playing with guys that probably had played college ball. Anyway, you would get done with that league at the end of the year, and the best team in England would play the best team in continental Europe. How about that? And so then you'd get up. At some point, we went a couple of times. Here's the countries I got a chance to go to. I got a chance to go to France, Belgium, Luxembourg, Switzerland, Italy, Austria, Germany, back up through Belgium, back into England, went all over England playing football. And then, of course, our assignment in England was the ground launch cruise missiles, or GLICM. And we had about 85-ish, I can't remember, ground launch cruise missiles pointed directly at South China. So if our, directing general were to take leave of his skills up there and start flipping switches, yeah, we could have, South China missing the next day. So it was a little bit hairy in that regard too. I get done with that assignment, made some great friends. By the way, how about this? Well, I'll tell that story in a second. But anyway, get out of there, come down to this place called Georgia, South Georgia, Lowndes County, Georgia, Valdosta, Georgia, and there is Moody Air Force Base, and I get to go there. They had, again, about 80 F-16s. About half of them would lift up every day and fly to Canada and come back. Great assignment. While I was there, they said, hey, we got an all-expense trip to go to Panama. Who wants to go? And I said, well, I do. So I went to Panama. And this is the winter of 1989. Manuel Noriega's down there, and he's acting a little bit crazy. And so we decide we're going to go ahead and chase him down and capture him. And we do. And this is what we call Operation Just Cause. Next thing you know, you're in the jungle looking for bad guys. I've got a lady, another Air Force gal. She's kind of my partner during that jungle moment. We're sitting there that first night. I'll never forget that. She's like, Mike, I'm scared. I said, I am too. And we're sitting there, and we got our backs to each other as we make a 360 so that we can keep up with any PDF or Panamanian Defense Forces that may be coming up on us. And we make it through there. The next thing I know is as the weeks roll on, we go to Balboa City, we go downtown Panama City, and finally make our way into the Omar Torrijos International Airport, where we're looking for bad guys there, hopefully encouraging bad guys to come into the country so we can capture them, trying to get maybe some bad guys to leave the country so we can capture them. I mean, it's real James Bond kind of stuff. You got guys that are literally ripping fake beards off one another as they're walking through the airport. I got to work with U.S. Marshals. I got to work with our United States Secret Service. It was way cool. And then I was out. Done. Just like that. And you're at the University of Arkansas, sitting in English class. And I'll never forget this kid sitting next to me. And he, 17-year-old punk who's got a sucker stuck in his hair. Hey, man, your parents letting you live off campus? And I'm looking at this guy, and I'm going, number one, I don't have parents. Number two, they don't even know where I'm at. And it made me kind of take stock. That whole moment there just kind of made me take stock of just all the things that we did in 3 years. But most importantly, what I was able to do in those 3 years is make some great friends. Pete Sorovitz, Richard Smith are still two of my closest friends on this planet. Pete and I have been at each other's weddings. Pete and I have been at each other's children's getting born. Pete lives in Brockton, Massachusetts. I live here in Northwest Arkansas. Are you kidding me? My old football coach that I had in the Air Force, he lives in Tampa Bay, Florida. I was in Tampa Bay, Florida about 3 years ago. Sure enough, Mike, what are you doing? You're here. I'm here. You're here. We had dinner, hugged necks. He's at my house the next summer watching my son dunk it on a goal out in my driveway as he's coaching my son to get higher and higher. Are you kidding me? This happened because of the Air Force. Again, not being unengaging, but instead engaging in life. Gave me all those moments that I was in the Air Force, if you will. And also, just every day. Just working every day. Going every day, doing the everyday. And guess what? you're setting money aside. You didn't know it, but the GI Bill came your way. I remember when I was in college, here comes the GI Bill every month to help me with college. Praise the Lord for that. My grandmother would call me, Mike, I've got this big stack of savings bonds that you have. I forgot about that. At the beginning of my Air Force career, I set that aside, $100 out of each paycheck. And then when I started college, I had like $6,000 in this little stack of U.S. savings bonds. How about that? I think there's a lesson there. Just hard work. You working hard for what? You don't know. You don't know. Just work hard. And the next thing you know, you got some payoff later on. It's kind of like a farmer's mentality. Doing something today that will make something a difference in the future. You know, planting the seed in the spring, bringing that thing to fruition in the fall, if you will. I see that so many times throughout my time there in the Air Force. I got to break that cycle of abuse. I got to break that cycle of physical abuse, of poverty, because, wait for it, I listened to that original guy at the very beginning, my senior year. I had a smart man who got in front of me and said, Mike, I think you need to join the Air Force. And I said, I think you're right. I think you're right. And gosh, did that take me in a different way. It took me on a whole different turn, and it was just way cool. And that's, if I share anything with anybody about my story, that would be it. Is just, you know, that whole thing of just listening to somebody else, working hard, and having faith that what you're doing is going to pay off in the end. And I think you'll be probably that much more for the better. So before I break away and let Miss Kelly come up here, anybody got any questions for me about my time in the Air Force? No? Well, thank you so much.
In addition, please help me by welcoming SPC-4 Kelly Robbins of the U.S. Army to Har-Ber.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Tilt this up a little bit. So, in high school, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. My older brother was a police officer. And so he would come home and tell me stories about, you know, things that he was doing out when he was on patrol, and I thought that was really cool. So thought maybe I wanted to go into law enforcement. So after high school, I went to college for about a year and a half, studied criminal justice, and then went to the recruiter and decided to join the Army. The Army at the time was the only branch that would allow me to go into military police. The other branches didn't have that option. So, of course, that's the path that I took. And my parents, my dad was in the Army. He was an officer. My grandfather, both sides, were both in the Army during World War II. I had two uncles that were in the Air Force. So my family has a long history of military service. So it was just pretty natural for me to take that route. So what I did while I was in the service, again, I was an MP, a little bit similar to what Mike was doing. So running patrols, driving a police car, making vehicle stops and responding to calls. But I was given a very unique opportunity to do things in the unit when I was stationed in Atlanta, Georgia. So I did both color guard, which, if you're not familiar with what that is, it's the group of individuals that are carrying the flags, and each side has a rifle on it. And they would go and present the colors at various events. So I was honored to be the first woman in our unit to be able to do that. My height definitely helped with that. And then after that, was able to go into a bike patrol unit. And so again, first female in my unit to be able to do that. So it was a really great honor. And that turned into a wonderful opportunity. While I was in Atlanta, It was the year 1996, and during that time was the Olympics. And so I was given the opportunity to perform in the closing ceremonies of the Olympics. And I would have never had that opportunity had I not been in the service or taken that leap to go into a bike patrol unit. After I left Atlanta, I went to Germany. I was there for about a year and a half, and just a wonderful, wonderful experience getting to travel to a different country, learn a different culture. I was exposed to meeting lots of people from different states, from different countries, and I love taking the opportunity to learn more about them and their cultures. So being in the military, you're around a lot of diversity, and I think that's wonderful. It makes you a more well-rounded person when you take the time to learn about other people. So when I was in high school, I would say that I was pretty awkward and very shy, like terribly shy. I would have never imagined that I'd be in a room like this talking to all of you and having your attention. So thank you for that. So being in the military definitely built my confidence. It also taught me a lot of things that relate to how I operate today in my career. So accountability, showing up to meet someone on time. Again, learning about different people and being interested in what they're doing and placing more importance on them before yourself. So, and then also, I just felt a sense of value. Like I felt valuable because they instill that. Al was mentioning when you go into the Marine Corps, they kind of break you down and build you back up. Well, I think every branch of service does that. And so when you get finished the training, it's challenging and it's tough, but you feel like you're a better, stronger person. And that just lends to success in life. So I wanted to touch base on the reason that I got out of the service. I was only in for just under 4 years, and I was starting a family. So was married. My husband was already out of the service. I was living in Germany, and I found out I was pregnant. So I did not want to raise my child in a different country while my husband was over here, so I decided to get out a little early. So does anyone have any questions about military service or anything that I touched on today? Yes.
Did you volunteer for the MP or were you assigned to that?
I requested that. So for military police?
Yeah.
Because I wanted to go into law enforcement. So I knew that was the path that I wanted to go into. Of course, when I got out of the service, my husband at the time was in law enforcement, local law enforcement. So, with having babies, I just decided it would be better if he took that path, and then I, stayed at home with the kids. So,
What was
yes.
the most repetitive law enforcement duty? I want to try to compare that to mine. What you do the most?
I did so many different things. And like I said, I was only in for about 4 years. And so, one full year I was in a color guard unit where I was training every single day, and then going to the governor's mansion and performing, or, Atlanta Braves, going out before before a game. When I was in bike patrol, I was in that for about a year. I was running patrol for about a year. I worked in the MP station for about a year. So I did so many different things that I wouldn't say that there was any kind of repetitiveness. Yes?
Aside from PT, so when you compare the job that a man and a woman do in the military,
Yes.
you feel like you guys were on equal footing and you had the same responsibilities and expectations?
Oh,
for your
yes.
job?
Oh, yeah. The expectation is you're doing the same thing as your male counterpart. Now, as far as like PT tests, there's a higher standard for men. So they're required to do more push-ups, for instance, than a female would. But as far as the duties, you're doing the same things. So and you're going to make sure that you're protecting whoever you're working with. So their safety is many times more important than your own. So.
So I'm curious also about your bike training. That's, because I ride, and I love that. So do you ride now, or?
I haven't ridden in many years. I did go through a school while I was in Atlanta. It was a civilian bike patrol training course. It wasn't terribly long, but you know, they taught you things like, you know, going through like an obstacle course and downstairs, and you know, because you're chasing after people, and so yeah, but it was a lot of fun. Do I miss the military? I don't think about it that often. Sometimes I do. Sometimes I think about, you know, getting back into it, but I also have a lot of things going on in my life now that, you know, that have more importance to me. So, any other questions? You all are so quiet. Are you normally like this? Are they normally like this? Oh, okay, okay. Does anyone in here think that they want to go into military service? No? Do you think that you have to go into the military to lead a life of service? I'm going to pick on this gentleman right in front of me here. Do you think that, nope? You're turning around. Yes, you. You.
Paranoid?
Yes. Yes. What's your name? West. So do you have to go into the military to lead a life of service? No? What sorts of things can you do? So I work at a bank. Can someone that works at a bank live a life of service? Yes. How? How? Yeah. So you all know of all of the different organizations in Northwest Arkansas where you can volunteer your time, and you all know that you can stand up for people who can't stand up for themselves. So those are all things that you can do without having to go into the military. Any other questions? Well, I want to thank you for your time. Thank you for being so attentive. I appreciate you.
All right, everyone, we have about 8 minutes left of class, so if you have any specific questions you'd like to ask any of our veterans, you can go ahead and stick around. Otherwise, teachers, if you could go ahead and take your classes back to the classroom, that would be great. Thank you. Who needs a microphone?
Exactly. When you have a mom voice.
Who needs a microphone?
Who needs a microphone?